Good evening, Lonetree, and thank you for joining our virtual town hall. I'm Mayor Jackie Millet, and joined with me this evening is our City Manager, Seth Hoffman, and our Police Chief, Kirk Wilson. Over the course of the next hour, we will discuss the city's response to the coronavirus and respond to questions you might have about what the new but temporary normal will look like in our city.
Jackie, I think we're on mute. Sorry. Give me a second. Oh, we're on. Sorry. Go ahead.
Apologies. I'd like to note for the record, this is our first virtual town hall, and we are learning to use this technology as best we can. I apologize if my comments were interrupted. Do we think that they did hear what I was saying? Okay, wonderful. So I'm gonna continue on from there. But I'd like to remind everyone that this is a dynamic situation with new information and resources becoming available hourly. For the most thorough and up-to-date data, I would direct you to the city website and the coronavirus page, which is regularly updated. But as of 7 p.m. this evening, this is what I can share. There are currently 50 cases of COVID-19 in Douglas County, with 9 identified within Lonetree. The virus has been identified in 29 of the 64 Colorado counties. We are starting to see a weekly doubling of cases, with 591 cases identified in the state, which is significant. We do have a message from Skyridge Hospital. We know you are all very interested and concerned about what is being done within our local healthcare community. And I would like to let you know that the hospital is prepared. They have the bed and capacity running 24/7. They are erecting a tent in case it is needed. Patient care continues. Elective surgeries have been delayed, not life-critical surgeries, and visitors are currently not allowed. We all know that our healthcare system is being stressed by this virus, which is why we really are trying to do everything within our power to stop the spread of COVID-19. I, along with senior staff, have been in close contact with our state and federal legislators and with our local government partners. We are in close communication with local, state, and federal health public officials, and public safety, as always, is at the center of our decision-making and remains Lonetree's top priority. The Board of Tri-County Health is meeting tomorrow morning to evaluate the current public health guidance they are giving us. Dr. John Douglas, Executive Director of Tri-County Health, indicated on a call this afternoon that a mandatory stay-at-home order is being contemplated. You may have heard on the news media that Denver has issued such an order, and a neighboring county is also expected to follow suit shortly if they have not already identified that. Dr. Douglas signaled a desire to have the metro region, if not the entire state, on the same page. Thus, in full disclosure and transparency with you, I want to let you know I would not be shocked, and I think it is just a matter of time before a regional order is issued. For now, the city of Lonetree is under a voluntary stay at home. We feel you are safer at home. We feel our community is safer, and our first responders and healthcare workers are safer with us remaining at home. That does not mean do not go out and do essential errands. Do not take care of loved ones. Do not get your prescriptions. Please feel free to stop to eat curbside and pick up your food through Lonetree Eats. But other than those essential errands or caring for loved ones, we do think you are best staying at home unless you are exercising outdoors, but maintaining the 6-foot distance, social distancing requirement. So what has the city been up to? In some ways, everything has changed, and in other ways, I want to reassure you that nothing has changed within the city. We are, as I mentioned earlier, continuing to prioritize public safety. Our streets are being plowed, we're collecting garbage, recycling, or even processing development applications, and we're conducting building inspections. We are deploying other city resources differently. Our PD has enhanced our community policing presence. Our economic development efforts have focused on state and federal economic assistance and recovery for our small businesses and residents. And our communication department has been focused on pushing out our public health information changes in operations at the city, and reinforcing the messaging about staying safe in home. I'd like our city manager, Seth Hoffman, to actually give you some more specifics about what is happening within the city. And I'm going to turn it to Seth right now. Thanks, Seth.
Thank you, Mayor. So I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We are working hard to make sure that we get as much communication out as possible. So I hope you're taking advantage of all those channels. We'll talk about those a little bit more later. I just want to let you all know that we've taken this seriously from very early on. We gave our employees notice about the disease, what to look out for, and how to protect themselves more than 7 weeks ago. Since that time, we've taken dozens of actions, some large and some small, to keep our community safe. Lonetree takes emergency management really seriously. In fact, last year we moved emergency management responsibilities to a department head level, at the same level as the chief of police and public works director. So during the past year, we've worked across the organization to ensure that we've had the most robust emergency operations and continuity of operations plan across all departments and with the city council. While we definitely did not predict this pandemic, our careful planning has put us on solid footing. With the support of the mayor and the council, each of us in the city knows, all of our city employees know what their roles are. As a result of that preparation coordination, city business is still moving forward. Despite the temporary closure of the public of our facilities, our city staff continues to work safely. Investments in collaboration platforms are paying huge dividends now that many employees are unable to come to the office, yet they're still being able to continue the vital work of the city. Soon, Chief Wilson's going to tell you a little bit about what that means for the police department, but I think I'll leave it there and pass it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Seth. I want to assure you all and let you know that we are well prepared for this crisis. We have an outstanding council, an innovative entrepreneurial staff that is dedicated to lessening the impacts of this virus on our business and residential community. And now I really want to turn it over to you, the folks with us this evening, to hear your questions. I think you may have heard we did receive a number of questions already via email, and you do not need to resend those questions. So Seth is going to act as moderator for us this evening.
Okay, we've got some questions. Actually, this is a good one right off the bat. Will the Bluffs and other hiking trails remain open during this time?
Yes, the Bluffs and hiking trails are expected to remain open. Really, we do need you to again adhere to the social distancing of 6 feet. If you come across someone that you are not living with up on any of our trails, but we have every intention of keeping our park space open for people to get outside when they can. Exercise is an important part of all of our health, and we want to encourage you to get outside as often as possible, but still practice the social distancing.
This question says, I understand the stay-at-home request. Is there anything that the citizens of Lonetree can do to help others within our city?
I think one of the best things you can do is look at Lonetree Eats and identify a local restaurant or that you can support. I think it really will make a difference. My family has had the opportunity to go out and get some takeout from some of the restaurants in the area, and they need us to continue to give them business. I think it's the best thing you can do. I also would encourage you to take a look at the city website where need help, give help opportunities exist, and you can sign up with whatever particular talent you may have to offer. I would also encourage you to take this opportunity to reach out to someone who may live at home that lives within your neighborhood or a friend, and they don't even have to be in Lonetree. I would say this is an important time for some folks who may be isolated at this point, living by themselves, for us to really reach out where we can and try and connect with them.
Okay, thank you. This question is, how will this affect the city's tax revenues?
That is a great question. I think hopefully all of you are aware that the city has the lowest sales tax rate in the Front Range. We also do not tax groceries as many of our municipal partners do. So this has significantly impacted revenue into our community. We know we are heavily dependent on sales tax revenues. So the city has always budgeted very conservatively. Council has adopted policy for emergency reserve funding for operating and capital costs. And we are continuing to evaluate our budget as we speak. And we will always be looking for ways where we can reduce expenses within the city. But again, I'm going to go back to the Lonetree Eats. The more you continue to take carry out it within the city, that does provide not only revenue for the businesses in our community, but it does provide sales tax revenue to the city. I think it's important to note that that sales tax revenue is really pass-through revenue. The city is not taxing our businesses. It is taxes that we pay, we the citizens or folks who shop and dine within the city pay. It is not a tax on our businesses, and the city does not have property tax, which again limits our revenues.
Thank you. This is a question we got earlier that says, nationwide, we were being requested to refrain from congregating with groups of 10 or more. Yesterday, I walked past our Lonetree Rec Center and there were at least 20 young adults playing basketball together. If only a few of them contracted the coronavirus, they would affect the entire city. What can the city do to prevent this from happening? And we have Chief Wilson on the line as well, if needed.
Well, obviously we want to hear from Chief Wilson, but first I would like to make a plea to us to manage our households. This is a very, very serious pandemic. We cannot be in close proximity to anyone that does not live within our household. I would encourage all of us to be good stewards of each other and each other's health, and recognize that you simply cannot participate in activities like pickup basketball, volleyball in the parks, any of those things that bring you in close proximity to another person that you are not sharing a residence with are dangerous to you, and they are dangerous to this community, and we would ask you to refrain from doing that.
Chief Wilson, do you want to add to that?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, I would agree with the mayor. Make sure that we're explaining the situation to our kids and our teenage folks, and make sure they understand that it also affects them. And then I think if you see it, report it and call the police department, and we will have officers go over and contact those folks. Make sure they're aware of the public health orders. And we're really just trying to seek compliance and educating the public. I think really we need to be patient with each other, but at the same time vigilant in what we're seeing out there and making sure that we're all staying safe.
Great, thank you, Chief. We've got a question about will Park Meadows Mall stay open?
As of today, Park Meadows Mall is remaining open. I think we all recognize there are a number of businesses that have made the decision to close their doors for the time being. The food court in Park Meadows is participating in the takeout, carry out food dining options. But again, even within the mall, we are requesting that you adhere to the social distancing guidelines and really limit your exposure and contact to others in the community.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions. For those of us with the option, what are the most impactful ways we can volunteer our time?
First and foremost, I would think really to try and identify folks in the community who may be isolated, reach out to them, let them know that you are there and can support them. If you know anyone who is ill or not feeling well, who is homebound, see if you can help deliver groceries, medicines, a card on their doorstep, something that's going to make them smile. There will be a blood drive that we are coordinating. If you are able to donate blood, that is an extremely valuable thing right now. They are concerned about running low on blood. I also think it's important, again, to go support your local businesses when you can. I think being kind, patient, friendly, willing to share a friendly wave and smile to any of our first responders. I think we would love to see that happen. I think you will see other opportunities to volunteer in the community that are being identified as we speak. And again, return to the City of Lonetree's coronavirus website to take a look at what those volunteer opportunities are going to be. We continue to add things to those daily as more information comes into us. We are working with our Living Well and Aging group to identify any folks in the community who may need a little bit of assistance, and we certainly will be able to share that information again through the city website.
Great.
Can I add something to that?
Go ahead, Chief.
Always.
So tomorrow we're going to be sending out from the city and from the police department a request for citizens of Lonetree to identify residents that might be in need, or they're either aging population or they have special needs, and to send us those names and contact information so we can reach out to them and make sure they're doing okay. We're also going to be asking for folks who might be interested in forming neighborhood watch groups or business watch groups, so we can better, just help coordinate with each other and making sure that we're looking out for each other over this next few months. So please be looking for that. It's going to come out on Nextdoor, it'll be on our website, and it'll be on, I believe, Facebook. So just be looking for that. It should come out tomorrow.
And lastly, I would add on our city website, and we'll give this link out at the end, we have a page dedicated to give help or get help, where people can look for ideas of how to get give help, or also to or if help is needed, we can help coordinate those resources as well. So lots of different avenues, as you've heard, to give or to get help if you need it. This is probably more of a public health question, but I want to make sure everyone feels heard. I know several people who've already been sick in the past month and may have already recovered from the virus. Will there be a way to test for immunities so that these people go out to help?
So I never want to speak for Dr. Douglas at Tri-County Health, but he did share with us today on the most recent call that we really still are very limited access to testing. So at this point, I think it is unlikely that we'll be able to go back and test to see if you did have the virus, although I know most of us would love to know the answer to that question. I think right now they really are restricting testing, even to people who are symptomatic, to first responders and to health workers. And I think even they are struggling to get tested right now. It really is extremely unfortunate, but we are not prepared to test everyone that we would likely want to test.
A similar question, probably a health question as well, from someone that says, if I'm directed by my PCP, I assume primary care provider, to get the virus test, where do I need to go? And I'm happy to take this one.
Yeah, absolutely, Seth.
So if you are directed by your physician, they will give you direction on where to go to get tested. So that's not something that you need to worry about in advance. All right. What about playing tennis at Lonetree Golf and Tennis?
Again, that to me, you can be social distancing from a tennis partner and player. I am not a health expert by any stretch of the imagination, but it was identified as one of the things that would probably likely be able to still occur. Again, I would be bringing hand sanitizer to that tennis court. I would be maintaining the social distancing with anybody that you come into contact on that tennis court. I would be using wipes if you touch the handle to access the courts. And I think you need to exercise good judgment in anything that you choose to do. But tennis was identified as something that you can maintain that social distancing. Again, I am not a health expert, and I think you need to follow your own advice. And kids, you need to listen to your parents on this one too.
Right. This question that says, Kaiser constructed a COVID-19 test tent on the east side of Heritage Hills and just behind the wall. I'm concerned there's not enough sufficient amount of standoff distance from homes should an accident happen. When I was in the military, a cordon of 500 feet was normally required. Does the city have any concern about this? Are you keeping an eye on what they're doing?
The city has been in close contact with Kaiser and Tri-County Health, and Douglas County Emergency to make sure that we are adhering to any and all guidelines, regulations, safety associated with the construction of that tent. I have been assured that there is no health risk to neighbors, increased health risk to neighbors associated with the tent.
Great. What decisions, we talked about this a little bit at the beginning, what decisions has the city taken to prepare for this pandemic? Are there other decisions pending?
Well, I again want to assure you that the city actually has done an excellent job with our emergency management planning. We could not have envisioned this pandemic, but we do have a continuity of operations plan that was adopted and put into place this fall. We have got resources in-house, an extremely talented group of individuals who have really prepared the city staff to work remotely, very cohesively. There are meetings that occur every morning with the executive team, but the daily work of the city is happening. It may not be happening within City Hall as it used to, but it is happening. And I'm going to actually ask our city manager, Seth Hoffman, to contribute more to the answer of this question.
Sure.
Seth.
So we have been working really hard, and we're actually changing, as part of our plan, we're changing some of the roles of some of our city staff. And so we've got really talented staff at the Arts Center. We've got really talented staff all across the city, and as part of our plan, we have asked all of them to change roles a little bit. We're working harder on communication, harder on restaurant outreach than we have in the past, and so we've identified some folks to help us with that. In addition, I'm going to let Kirk, Chief Wilson here, talk a little bit about the work that he's done to prepare and how they're making sure that their officers are out in the community.
Thanks, Seth. So I think the one thing that I'd like to share is that well before this became a pandemic in the U.S., we were already preparing, not only with the city but the police department, preparing plans for the different scenarios that could possibly play out. We were, investigating what types of personal protective equipment we were going to need for our officers, and what different kind of procedures we would need to put into place to make sure our officers stay healthy so that we can provide emergency services throughout this entire event. And then, of course, the event then developed in the U.S. and fortunately, we already had some of those plans prepared and were able to implement. We already had supplies of personal protective gear, and why that's really important is so that we don't lose a majority of our police department as they get exposed to the virus. So we've done a really good job of mitigating those exposures, and we've been able to deploy with really good staffing during this entire event. We're coordinating with other police agencies and fire departments in our response to medical calls, in our response to different types of events that we're anticipating within the community. We're also working on developing a network of business partners that are our essential services located in Lonetree. So we're talking about our medical facilities, our supermarkets, hardware stores, and other locations that are still going to remain open. And so we're making sure we're liaisoning with them, and they're getting all the police support that they could possibly need. And then again, as I said earlier, we're going to try to continue to work on neighborhood watch groups and really try to have a strong presence in our neighborhoods.
Thanks, Chief. Seth?
Yep. So this is a good question. As our mayor, how would you rate the city's response so far? How would you rate Lonetree citizens' response so far?
So I think Seth likes this question because he knows I think that Lonetree staff is doing an unbelievable job. We are so fortunate to have the team that we have assembled here. We are also blessed to have a council that is dedicated and in tune with the community. And given the uncertainty that we are all facing, I could not ask for a better group of individuals to be partnering with to address this crisis. I think the city of Lonetree has always strives to be the best. I think we always look to achieve beyond what would be expected from the average. And so in that case, I think we are striving to do our very best to be as responsive as we can be to the residents, the businesses, and the people that visit our community. I think the other piece of that is we always want to do more. We always want to do better. We always want to work harder. And I think we will continue to look for opportunities to, again, lessen the impact of this on our community. And what I would ask Lonetree residents to do is, again, first and foremost, practice good social distancing. You will continually hear that from me because it is the best thing that we as individuals can do to make a difference. We must flatten the curve. The rate of people being infected is growing. It is growing more steeply. As I indicated earlier, the rates have now doubled within the state on a weekly basis. That is not the direction that we want to be going. And what we can do better is adhere to the social distancing. I hate to sound like a broken record, but that is what you can do to protect yourselves and protect your community, to protect our healthcare workers. So in general, I think people are trying to do the right thing. I think with more information about the spread and the asymptomatic spread of the disease, we now understand we have to maintain that social distance from each other. And if that's the one area we can improve on, I think everyone dedicated to that can make a difference.
I think somewhat related question and maybe best answered by Tri-County, but where are we in the COVID-19 pandemic cycle in Lonetree?
I think Lonetree is too small a segment of the population to really answer that. What I will tell you is that Dr. Douglas again shared with us that we are not adequately testing within the state of Colorado, so it is very, very difficult to determine that. We are also 2 weeks behind in data because of the asymptomatic transmission. So people who are infected are walking around for 5 to 7 up to 10 days before they recognize they're sick and before they take action. So regardless of any of that, what we know for sure is that if we maintain social distance and good hygiene, we can make a difference. And that's really what I'm going to encourage us all to do.
Thank you. This is a good but challenging question. Can you explain the differences in the roles of the City of Lonetree, Tri-County Health Department, and State Health Department have in responding to the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, I want to first let you know that Tri-County Health will be holding their own town hall, virtual town hall, and I believe it's March 24th. And we will make sure that information on the date and time of that, and I believe it is the 24th, is being pushed out on all of our social media platforms and the city website. What I can share with you is that the City of Lonetree does take direction from the public health organization, Tri-County Health. CDPHE, the Colorado Public Health, Centers for Disease Control, Tri-County Health, are all coordinating with each other on messaging, information sharing, and resources. So what the city does not have a Health and Human Services department. We rely on the county for health and human service activities. We do coordinate on emergency management services, and we take advice and input and direction from the public health advisors.
Okay. As a senior citizen and staying inside as much as possible, it'd be nice to read while being homebound. Are there any plans to perhaps opening up the libraries for picking up or returning books?
At this point, I cannot speak to Douglas County Libraries. What I can let you know is that as part of the volunteer opportunities within the city, we are looking at ways to maybe have people donate books, bring books to a location, and then we would need to disinfect the books or wipe the books down, and then a way to distribute those books. And that might be one of the volunteer opportunities that you do see on the city website. We will also be discussing with Douglas County if they are Douglas County Libraries, if they are looking at something like that. Not everyone's favorite, but I would encourage you to potentially look at ebooks as a way to get new reading information. If you do not have an iPad or access to a computer, I recognize that is challenging though.
We could maybe have Chief Wilson answer this question. I've seen Morningstar residents individually walking to Sprouts and Target. Can an officer monitor both stores during the day?
Hi. Well, we're probably not going to be able to station someone there at those stores each day, but as I said before, what we are going to do and what we have done is we've been coordinating with the managers at each of those stores and monitoring what types of activities are happening there. And if they need us because they have a increased level of patrons or they have some kind of issue with how the patrons are behaving, then we are deploying officers to each of those locations. But we're certainly doing a lot of business checks, and we have been doing those each morning. And so while I can't say we're going to have someone at each of those locations just because we don't have enough officers to do that, we are being pretty responsive if the managers or the folks there at those locations feel like they need a police presence.
And I would like to give a shout out to Chief Wilson because they've been very proactive. And I was on one of the leadership calls, and Chief Wilson indicated that he was going to have his community policing lead or one of his commanders reach out to every single one of the grocery stores or in the city to make sure that they knew who to call, how to get in touch with the police. And I have seen, as I have just been out and about doing my takeout carry out, because I am maintaining the social distance, our police cars in front of the businesses that are currently or temporarily closed right now. So our police force is doing a really excellent job of coverage within the community. And again, I just really want all of us to let them know how much you appreciate the great work they are doing, not just the PD, but all the city staff. But if you have an opportunity to send a nice tweet out to the Lonetree Police Department, I would encourage you to do that. They are working in challenging times, balancing their own personal lives and conditions that may be happening within their homes, and still coming out to serve us every single day, 24/7.
Thank you, Mayor.
How will we know if a person who has tested positive is quarantined in our neighborhood?
There is no way for you to know unless that person chooses to share that information with you. The medical testing results are confidential. They are not shared with anyone, with the exception of who the individual shares them with. But the only caveat to that is that our police department dispatch is made aware of folks in our community that have tested positive. So our police department, when they go in to respond to a call at that location, can be prepared with the proper protective equipment. But other than that, that information is not shared with anyone unless the person who tested positive chooses to share that information.
Okay, another question that came just as we've been online here. If the city ends up putting out a stay-at-home order, you clarified that the city wouldn't do that, the Tri-County would do that. Will city employees still be paid?
The city employees, one of the important things that was put into place with our continuity of operation plan is the capability for a significant number of the City of Lonetree staff to be able to work remotely. Because of the essential services that are provided by the city, some city staff, obviously our police officers, will still physically be coming into the office. There is a limited number of other individuals who may be called upon to come into the office. And I am happy to let you know that every single one of our employees is still contributing and working very hard, whether they're in this building or at home. It is the work of the city continues. I'm very proud of the fact that most of it can be done remotely, and that's where we are going.
Thank you. This is a good question, and I'm happy to answer this. Will the Lonetree Golf Course and other parks be maintained? The Lonetree Golf Course and other parks, for the most part, are maintained by our partners at South Suburban Parks and Rec. We are in communication with them, and I do believe it is their intent to continue to maintain their parks. Keep everything mowed and maintained. We want to be able to reopen those as soon as we're able. So they're definitely going to maintain their assets, and there may be some changes as far as how accessible playgrounds are and that sort of thing. But as far as open spaces are concerned, we think those will be continued to be maintained. All right. Will the city give each resident a few face masks so it will be safer when the residents go grocery shopping?
The city of Lonetree unfortunately does not have access to face masks. Our police department has some limited access to personal protective equipment, and I think we would all agree that given the fact that they are put into those uncertain situations, that we do need to preserve those for the city public safety employees, but we do not have a cache or a resource or a stash of face masks. And frankly, given the lack or the limited supply, I think everyone is being encouraged to reserve those for the healthcare workers and public safety individuals, our firefighters, our police department, our first responders.
That we have a related question to that that I'll ask Kirk to answer, Chief Wilson to answer. Are your officers needing any PPE?
Thanks, Seth. No, at the moment we're fairly stocked up, and we're working on getting supplies over the next few months. But we've actually had a few businesses donate some things over the last week. But we had already stocked up on some things prior to this, really this getting to this type of level. So right now we're doing good, and we are anticipating that a lot of those supplies over the next month will be replenished and be a little more easily accessible.
One idea that I heard today that I thought was good, that some high school chemistry teachers had a stock in their labs and went in and repurposed those. So they're in some interesting places. So I would encourage everybody to kind of be thinking about where they might be in offices that are currently not being used, and get those to the people that need them most.
I think, Seth, that's a great idea. And going back to one of the earlier questions about how you could possibly help, or how could a Lonetree resident help, if you do have access to any such personal protective equipment, please be in touch with the city, and we will make sure it gets distributed to the people on the front lines of combating this illness.
Chief, another related question: are officers being exposed to the COVID virus, and has anyone in the department tested positive?
Well, I want to go back to the question just before. One, thank you for asking about whether we need anything. So far, the answer is no. We don't have anybody that's tested positive. We are dealing with a few illnesses. Whether that's related to that or not, I'm not sure. We have not had any exposures that we know of in the public. However, we are advised by Tri-County Health of locations where people are testing positive. So our officers typically know prior to going to a call, so they can properly put PPE on before they go to the call, so they can be protected. And then we've implemented some procedures where if you call the police department or the dispatch center, they're going to ask you some medical questions up front to screen, so we have a better idea of what possible exposures we could have. And then we've trained our officers to, when they make contact with people, part of those questions might be related to medical questions, just so they can better protect themselves and you, because they do come into contact with a lot of folks, and we don't want to inadvertently, expose someone else. So we're trying to do, trying to implement as best practices as we can to limit those exposures. Thank you, Chief.
We've had several questions like this one, so I'm going to group them into one. I've not been successful in getting much needed groceries at our Lonetree stores, such as milk, eggs, etc. What can be done to assure these items aren't being hoarded and everyone gets some?
I think going back to, again, the earlier question is, what can we individually do within this community is I think only take what you need. Do not hoard. Know that you will. These stores are being replenished. We have had conversations with the groceries and the retailers within the community. They do have supplies. They will be coming in. There is no need to buy more than you need at the time. I can attest, my son actually found toilet paper today at Costco. Please do not make a run on Costco. They do replenish it. It is there. We will have it. And I would encourage you all again to show a little compassion, kindness, empathy for one another, and really only purchase what you need, and recognizing that within a week or 10 days, you will be able to resupply.
Thank you. This question says, what services is the city going to cut to handle the new budgetary constraints?
So the city is evaluating, and City Council is evaluating what programs, projects can be deferred or postponed. And we have identified some of things that really don't have to happen this year. We are very aggressive and proactive in our capital maintenance within the city. I think we know when we drive on Lonetree streets, they are maintained at a higher caliber than some of our neighboring communities. I think that is one area we've identified that we probably don't have to meet that level of excellence in light of the conditions right now. We are looking at some of the discretionary programming during the summer. Some of our summer events may not be happening right now. I think we're looking at purchasing equipment that we may be able to delay for a year or so. So everything is on the table. I think the city is very conservative in its budgeting. I think we benefit from that. Again, we do maintain operating reserves because we are so dependent on sales tax revenues. But I will be very honest with you, we are going to have to make some deep cuts. There is, depending on how long this crisis continues. As I have said, we do not tax groceries in the city of Lonetree, as do some of our municipal partners. That is a considerable source of revenue for other local governments that we do not have. So again, please shop Lonetree Eats. Please, when you can, and I recognize we're all in different financial situations, shop locally at our grocery stores. We do tax cleaning items and we do tax toilet paper, but we don't tax food. So when you can shop at Lonetree, please do. Please know that council is taking the economic situation extremely seriously. This is not just a public health crisis, it is also an economic crisis. And we're trying to do everything within our power to minimize the impacts to our residents and the cuts that we have to make to the budget, but there will be cuts. And we're going to start with some of our more discretionary capital projects. I want to make note, though, there are some projects, the work on Ridgegate Parkway, you're going to see that work continue and go on. That has funding that can only be used on that roadway. There's private funding, and there is some federal funding that we got through some federal transportation grants. That money cannot be diverted to anything else. You will see work continue on Ridgegate Parkway. You will see a traffic light being installed at Crooked Stick. The traffic signal there is a public safety project. It meets warrants for a signal. We need to get a signal in there to be good stewards of public safety. Some of the other overlay pavement concrete projects will be postponed or delayed this year.
Thank you. How will Planning Commission and City Council hearings be conducted during this time?
That is a great question that we are evaluating as we speak. We have been advised by our city attorney that holding quasi-judicial hearings like the Planning Commission or site improvement plans for the city or liquor licenses for the city, things of the quasi-judicial nature cannot be conducted virtually. For now, we are moving forward and continuing those items to our next council meeting. We want to make sure the public has an opportunity to participate in those processes. We will be conducting our council meetings. We have not made a decision if our next meeting will be a virtual meeting again. We may convene or may not, but the public likely will not be at the next city council meeting. So I hate to kick the can down the road for you, but it's really a to be determined. Because our Planning Commission primarily meets in the quasi-judicial setting, it is unlikely that we will do that in the near future. However, our planning commission does meet for education and information purposes, and those meetings can move forward.
Is the mayor in ongoing communication with the major employers in the area? And what is business doing to contribute to their part in combating the spread?
So I have been in close communication with the executive director of the Park Meadows Mall, with Charles Schwab, with Kiewit under construction there, with Skyridge Hospital we reached out to. What I am most proud of is those folks a lot of times are reaching out to the city, to me, to our city manager, to say what is it that we can do and how can we help. First and foremost, they have instituted telework, remote work where they can. There are some essential businesses that do require some minimal face-to-face, but they have put into practice the social distancing, the cleaning, the remindment about personal hygiene for the people that work there. We have had a number of individuals from our financial institutions volunteer to potentially help some of our smaller businesses navigate the economic recovery packages that we expect to be coming from the state and federal government. We are looking for ways to proactively engage all of our local businesses to support one another through this crisis, and I've been very happy with the response that we've gotten for that.
Kirk, I think you're ready to answer this question. Is there a chance the city of Lonetree, I'm going to paraphrase, where the police would not respond to certain classes of crimes in order to remain focused?
Well, I think there's a possibility, but what I would say is that we don't have any plans to do so right now. I think our intentions right now, and based on the calls for service we're having, and quite frankly, by the great response our citizens have had, our calls for service are actually down. We're able to really do a lot more community policing because of that. Now that could change, the longer this goes on, and if things drastically change as far as the response from the community. But so far, our Lonetree residents have been, fantastic. The number of people visiting our city is much down compared to what it was, a couple of weeks ago. So our intentions are to continue to respond to calls at the same speed and the same, and to respond to all calls that come in. Now we have changed our protocols. So to reduce contact with citizens unnecessarily, certain types of calls like property crimes with no suspects, identity theft type crimes where we can handle most of that information over the phone. We're typically going to make a phone call to the citizen and basically handle the entire thing over the phone. And even to businesses, depending on what the issue is handle most of that over the phone. If we need to respond to collect evidence, of course we will. But we're just trying to reduce the types of contacts we have, and really to protect our first responders and protect the citizens that we serve, so that they're not unnecessarily exposed as well. So while there could be in the future some changes to that, depending on how long this goes on and other things that happen, our intentions right now are to really respond to everything as we are today.
Thank you, Chief. How will Lonetree residents learn of a Tri-County stay-at-home order?
We will be pushing all of that information out through all of our social media platforms. And again, I want to direct folks to the city website and the coronavirus page on the city website. I would expect you'll also hear about it from 9 News, CBS 4, and the Denver Channel 7. So I think should that happen, we will all be getting alerts on our devices, I would suspect, but the city will also be pushing it out through all of our listservs and all of our media platforms.
Thank you. How do we know that the food we purchase through Takeout is safe? What if one of the cooks has contracted COVID-19 but doesn't know because they're asymptomatic?
Again, it's challenging. We don't know what we don't know. I think the restaurants are all practicing the utmost extremes of hygiene, personal hygiene, and doing everything within their power. I think they recognize how important this is to them and their businesses. They're not going to be having people in handling food that are symptomatic. I recognize that folks can be asymptomatic as they're moving forward, and I would look to our Tri-County health officials. I think that might be a great question for them as far as does cooking the food then kill the virus? And I cannot answer that question for you.
Tri-County does have some very specific verbiage about that, and right now they don't consider that a health threat. So far they feel like that is a relatively safe thing to do. So we would encourage you to again help support our Lonetree restaurants.
Lonetree Eats.
Lonetree Eats.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's happening with evictions at this time?
So the city doesn't have any direct authority over evictions. I have heard from my conversations with my state partners, and we also heard the mayor of Denver speak to the redeployment of resources within the city away from any evictions. And I think, Chief, you may want to weigh in. I do believe this is under the purview of the county. Do you have any additional information on that, Chief?
Kirk, we can't hear you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So, Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, do you have any information about how evictions are being handled by Douglas County right now?
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't have any information about that at all.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I'm aware of is that most places have halted that, but that is a question we'll research more and we'll post in a frequently asked questions part of our website. Okay, this is a tough but important question. This is a particularly vulnerable time for adults and children living in an abusive home. Is there anything in particular that can be done to support these individuals?
I think if you are living in an abusive home at the time, the city does have a victims advocate program, and I think I would ask that you be in touch with our police department, and they can put you in contact with our victims advocate and identify resources to help you in this actually very trying time. If you are someone who has in the community who has additional information and resources that you might be able to contribute to anybody who is suffering this abuse, if you could also contact the non-emergency line for the police department and be in touch with our victims advocate program to really be able to identify resources and needs, we would very much appreciate that.
We have about 5 minutes left. We have just a handful of questions. They keep coming in, and we really appreciate it. If you have an urgent one that you want to ask, please submit it now. I'll answer this one quickly. Does the number of 9 people infected in Lonetree include those at Skyridge, if any, or are they Lonetree residents? I think the answer is a combination. I think we definitely have some Lonetree residents in their homes that are recovering from and have tested positive. Quite a few people have asked a question that I think we addressed right off the very beginning, but it's probably worth answering again. Did you say something already about your thoughts of Douglas County going into a stay-at-home situation like Denver? So
I mentioned earlier in the evening that Tri-County Health has indicated that the Public Health Board will be meeting tomorrow morning, and one of the things they are contemplating is a recommendation for a stay-at-home order. I think most of us may be aware of the fact that Denver has instituted such an order. There is a neighboring county to Denver that has, if they haven't already, you guys may have already seen it on some of your news alerts. I have mine turned off at the moment. Another county might be instituting a similar order. Dr. Douglas did indicate he believes the Metro region should be in sync on this issue, but they recognize it is very, very complicated. I did share my personal belief that I would not be shocked at some point that if a stay-at-home order is not issued from our Tri-County Health Department.
Okay, I think I'm not seeing any new questions. Chief Wilson, what other questions that you've received that you would want to share?
I think we've addressed most of them, Seth. I think primarily I just want to convey a couple basic thoughts, and that is one that I think the police department's pretty prepared as far as to protect our officers, so that one, we can continue to deliver the best services possible, that we're very connected with the other agencies in the area and coordinating our efforts. The second thing I think I really want to convey and really just echo what the mayor said, and that is, let's try to be nice to each other, be kind and be patient, and make sure you inform the police department if you see people in need. Reach out to the police department. Again, we're going to put something on a website, on Facebook, on Nextdoor tomorrow, where we'll have a place where you can email or call to advise us of folks that might be in need. And we are going to set up a plan for reaching out to them and getting them connected to either county resources or just following up with them ourselves. So I think if we, as a community, if we just stick together and when we have a little faith and understand that there's a lot of things in place that are going to make sure that resources are available, we're all going to get through this, and within a few months, hopefully this will just be a bad memory.
From your lips to God's ears, Chief. Can we put up the graphic that shows the state's initiative on well, first of all, we always want to plug hashtag Lonetree Eats. The restaurants are open for takeout and delivery, and they actually really do appreciate it. Appreciate everything that we can do for them. I would like to also note that Denver initially came out. There's some great pictures of Lonetree community enjoying some curbside delivery. The Denver order initially said that liquor stores were not going to be remaining open as part of as an essential business. It's my understanding that has been revised. So, and just because Denver does something does not mean our orders would be exactly the same. So please don't look at the Denver restrictions and think that's exactly what's going to happen in Lonetree, because it is not. We take our guidance from Tri-County Health, but we very much respect the good work that happens in Denver. So in addition to Lonetree Eats, Colorado, do your part. Doing my part, Colorado, stay home and flatten the curve. There's some great and interesting things that you can evaluate and see that some of our partners throughout the state are doing, and I would encourage you to take a look at those. In addition to that, I'd love to throw up the city website again. So if you don't know where the city's online resources are, it's cityoflonetree.com, and coronavirus for specifics. And if you have questions about city services, cityoflonetree.com /online services. I would encourage you, if you have not had the opportunity to ask your question, or you didn't feel like you got the answer you want, your question wasn't answered this evening, you may not have gotten the answer you wanted. Please reach out and let us know, and we will include it on our frequently asked questions. Please continue to be in touch with me, with our city manager, with the city offices. We do want to hear from you. We do want to address your questions. We will probably periodically be hosting these to keep you informed as things change, but updates will regularly occur on the city website. So I have a closing comment, but I want to let Seth, is there anything else that you feel you want to add this evening?
Thank you. I will just add that, our staff knows that it's hard not to feel anxious during these times, but I want to let you know that our team really was purpose-built to rise to significant challenges. We didn't know what challenge we would be rising to, but I'm going to guarantee that our staff is going to keep working hard every single day with the same spirit of optimism and determination that they have brought to their job every day. We know we're all in this together, and we are here for you, Lonetree.
Thanks, Seth. And I just want to reiterate, we are well prepared for this crisis. We are also very sustainable in this city, so we're not moving around in this room enough so the lights keep turning off on us. We apologize, but we are trying to conserve where we can. So we are prepared for this crisis. It will have impacts on the community, but we have a team in place to lessen those impacts. So while we adjust again to this new but temporary normal, Please again know we're in this together, and together we can make a difference. The more we demonstrate compassion, kindness, and patience, the easier it will be for all of us to navigate these troubled times, especially those on the front line of combating this pandemic. I would like to ask you to please take good care of yourselves and each other, and please reach out and let us know what we can do for you. Thank you, Lonetree.